think I'm chosen to be the king of rock. Think the people have spoken. I can hear the tick-tock of the clock, I'm in motion. So now I'm gonna pop, causing all this commotion. Yeah. Sometimes I think that I'm unstoppable.
Thursday morning, so you know what that means. It's time for the AEW Dynamite review of this week, or this week it's AEW Road Rager. It's their first show back on the road, away from Daly's Place with a full crowd. It looked like maybe there was even some blacking of the lights up in the balcony areas, maybe a little bit. So maybe it wasn't completely full, but still a full crowd. Yeah, it was still a pretty packed house. It looked like a small building, and I think that's partially what gave it that effect. There's a lot of different camera angles and stuff that looked a little, odd. But getting back into the swing of things. But if you're finding this for the very first time, please hit that like and subscribe button. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you get all the notifications about when we put up new content right here on this channel. So, like I said, it just felt like a little bit of the camera angles were a little bit off. Just trying to fit it into this crowd. They even shot the hard camera was on the entrance ramp, which was interesting for this show. Definitely, yeah. So I think a lot of might have been just space that played into it for sure. But all things considered, with a hurricane bearing down on the location, I don't know if that played anything into all that stuff, but interesting to note nonetheless. This show opened up with a South Beach strap match with Cody Rhodes versus QT Marshall. I thought at first when Cody came out, it felt like he was still pretty much over with the live crowds. I'm not going to lie, though. I felt like this match struggled to get going. Not only that, I feel like strap matches sometimes in general are not always the best to put on television, because it feels like, especially when you do the gimmick where you've got to go touch all four quarters to win the match. It feels like it's I don't know, a little sluggish, or whatever you want to call it. Kind of drags a little bit, because every time, one person stops, they got to start all over again. It's like, all right, 1, 2, 3.
And that's just one of those things that help, extend the match, essentially.
It's supposed to be a little drama.
But I don't like the fact that all of a sudden now you can reach all four corners. For me, strap matches should be one of those things of in the same vein as an I Quit match, or I'm not a fan of on the pole matches, but essentially once you get the strap, it's a game changer. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's the same vein. I feel like the dog collar matches. What's the whole point of touching the four corners? The strap. In a strap match, it doesn't really get utilized that much, except for if you might get a couple shots in with it, but it's usually just to hold your opponent over here or direct them to where you're going but the straps literally will range around.
It was so long. The guy could have been down anywhere in the ring, and you could have easily ran around real quick. It was weird because the strap was just that long. If it was a shorter strap, you'd have to literally drag your opponent. But in this case,
then that's more believable.
Yeah.
Then it's like, no. We're really strapped together here. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not that much play in this strap here. So then it would constitute me stopping you from going. But when the strap is legitimately one corner to the other corner, it's kind of like, all right, this is fucking pointless.
I mean, it gives the competitors some room to maneuver with a longer strap so you don't get tangled up in it. But even so, they were still getting tangled up in that strap during this match quite a few times. There's even one time, I think QT hit a back suplex on Cody, and the strap kind of caught him, and it looked like Cody landed on his neck. It's like, ugh. But when you have a long strap like that, to me, it's also kind of like the Money in the Bank or a ladder match issue when it's like, okay, you could easily go touch all four quarters, but you've got to build the drama, make it act like you can't reach it. It's like when you're climbing a ladder and you got to go slowly
to build the bottom of the
to build the drama, but at the same time, it's like, just run up there, grab the thing. It's not that hard. Part of that's just professional wrestling. You got to, check your brain at the door a little bit.
The whole suspension of disbelief. I get that part. But like I said, when you can visually see, it's not that. It's long as shit.
Right.
If you'd have shortened it by a couple feet and then made it seem like going to the corners was a struggle because you're dragging this other person, or this other person is physically stopping you from doing that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Then it gives more credence to the reaching and the trying to tug them across with you, and then a tug of war ensues over the strap. Like I said, I honestly think the strap is a game changer when it's in your hand. So it should be treated as such. Instead, like I said, it's used for maybe a couple spots here and there, but then for the most part, the strap is kind of lost in a strap match.
Yeah, unfortunately, and it probably the reason why we don't see a whole lot of them much anymore. Back in the day, they were a little more popular, especially like with when they mentioned on the show like Dusty Rhodes and even Dustin used to do some,
and stuff like that. Yeah,
but it seems like nowadays.
But again, those were shorter to where it was a fight,
Yeah.
a tug of war in a sense, because there were, if I'm not mistaken, there's one spot where they both go for not in this match, in older, bull rope matches and strap matches, they'll both go for a corner, but since the rope, there's no slack in it, they would stop. So
Right.
then they're pulling and trying to.
And that's what they should be doing in most of these cases. But for whatever reason, they opted to go the long strap. Probably because they were doing some spots on the outside of the ring. They probably needed a longer strap. You had Cody on the inside of the ring trying to pull QT, and at one point even pulled him into the ring post and stuff.
To where you have enough slack, but still be a few feet short, on the corner spots, and you can see there's no slack in the strap. You know what I mean? But you can still have it long enough to where you can do these other things. These other spots, stuff like that. It's just, I don't know. Sometimes, like I said, strap matches, bull rope matches, if done right, they're great. They're great gimmick matches. But in some cases, it's just they fall flat. You know what I mean?
And I don't want to make it sound like we're completely crapping on this match. It wasn't bad. It was just kind of like, there were certain spots like, all right, it could have been done better. I kind of felt that way about a lot of this show tonight. Actually, it was kind of like, all right, it wasn't the best Dynamite I've ever seen, but like we were talking a little bit before we started recording, that I could almost forgive it a little bit just because it feels like it's their first show back on the road in 15 months. Granted, it's only all
this stuff, and they wanted to get the big pops to get the crowds.
They wanted
excited. And
it just seemed like it almost felt like the show was even rushing a little bit. I felt in spots it felt like they were just like, all right, segment's over, next segment's over, go on, keep going. It felt really rushed. It would have been nice if it felt like they just took a minute to breathe a little bit, especially early in the show. I thought by the end it got a little better, but that, and then it felt like in the first few matches, especially, it looked like there was some clunky spots, maybe a few botches here and there. But again, part of that's just crowds being back. You want to do well. You got a lot of pressure. You're maybe overthinking it a little bit and get a little nervous. So I'm not going to, crap on them too much for it. But I did feel a little bit on in this show. And some of the matches, it just felt like your typical Dynamite stuff. Nothing too special, even though they were building it like a big, Road Ragers. It's a big pay-per-view type thing. Even though they've got the whole month of July, it's all kind of not just called Dynamite. They've got special names for their events. So I just felt like in that case. But overall, this strap match wasn't terrible, but with the strap being a little long and stuff.
But it's like, because it could have been better.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's kind of my feeling on most of this show. The ending saw, QT Marshall, Cody low-blowed him, and he spit him. And that's when QT Marshall spit Cody in the face. Yeah, I think it's worded poorly, but he received he received 3 crossroads for his efforts, allowing Cody to touch all 4 quarters for the win. I think Aaron Solo even tried to get involved. That brought out Dustin Rhodes to make the save a little bit as well. No rules in this match, so I could forgive it. Much like in the main event, a little bit when there's so much involved, just because they established there's no rules. It's just, to me, it bothers me more when people in AEW get involved in everybody's matches when there's clearly a set rule set, like in singles or a tag matches, and everybody tries to get involved. But I can forgive it a little more. However, as we were talking a little bit before the show too, you're not wrong.
To death at
right
points though, like
it's
like, okay, there they come.
Especially in Young Bucks matches.
Yeah,
especially
because it's like, it's one of those situations like when it doesn't happen, you anticipate the outcome more. When it does happen, you're like, all right, well, I've fucking seen this 1,000 times.
Right. I mean,
you know what I mean?
And I get, the Young Bucks especially, it's kind of the gimmick. I mean, and Roman Reigns has used this a bit on SmackDown. He may not now, because who knows what the Usos deal is going to be. But the Young Bucks are doing this heel gimmick where they need help to win. Okay, cool. I get it. But when you do it every single week, it does get a little old. It's like, all right, let's just straight up have them win on their own. And we've been saying that for weeks too. They've got that Roman Reigns issue where Roman Reigns had to do the same thing, and he did.
They're doing this heel thing. And I get that there's supposed to be this parody of these heel, old-fashioned tag But Jesus, none of them had this many run-ins.
Yeah.
Even the Four Horsemen at the top of their game, not like this, dude.
Mm-mm. Yeah,
And it's
every
just
week
like-
it's the same guys too. It's the Good
Yeah,
Brothers,
it's like,
which
oh my God.
yeah, which we'll get into a little bit of that more once we get to the main event. But yeah, kind of the same thing here with the Cody QT stuff. I didn't see any Nick Camarado or Anthony Ogogo, or at least I didn't see them. Maybe they were out there.
I didn't see it.
So I guess in that case they did a little better on that regard. They didn't have them come out.
Get a go-go, that's for sure.
Right. After the strap match that Cody won, Sean Spears cut a promo with the back. He addressed Sammy Guevara, saying it was Guevara's ego that got him into trouble last week. He was then interrupted by a chair being thrown at his face by Sammy Guevara, who said, "This is far from over." My only big problem with this was the fact that during Sean Spears' promo, he put his hand up almost a whole second too soon when Sammy threw the chair at him, so it looked like he was definitely anticipating the throw. But I get it. At least he got his hand up and he didn't get whacked in the face with a chair. But it did make it kind of come off a little bit fake. But other than that, it was basically Sammy Guevara kind of doing the same thing that Sean Spears did to him either the week before or a couple weeks before that, where he laid him out with the chair. So I'm expecting a chairs match between these two at some point here before too much longer. That's my guess.
And I was still mad about that though, but it is what it is.
What are you mad about?
That match, how it ended last week though.
With MJF and Guevara, okay.
Yeah.
Which MJF was telling everybody all week on social media that he won clean, which I thought was funny.
Which is funny.
Yeah.
It's like that match was fucking good.
It kind of goes to our point about the Young Bucks. The interference stuff. If we're going to rag on WWE about it, we're going to rag on AEW about it. There comes a point where interferences and things can be overdone. For the most part, AEW does well when it comes to DQs and count outs and things like that. They don't overdo them. But you're starting to get to that point where you're overdoing the interferences and the distraction. Maybe not the distractions in the same way WWE does it by like a music hits and all of a sudden the guy gets rolled up. That may not be the same sort of thing, but when it comes to interferences, AEW's got to maybe rein it in just a little bit here. I'm not going to lie.
And especially when you have matches as good as some of these are.
Yes, they are.
And it's like you want that payoff, and it's like you don't get it again. I understand maybe once. Hell, I'll even give you twice. Mm-hmm. But at some point, you want that payoff, and that match is building up and building up, and then boom, and it's like, what the fuck? Like, can I get that release of endorphins when it happens? Because it's like you're hitting it, and it's just like, okay.
And I've not normally been one to compare AEW to WCW like some people have. But when you do all the interference stuff like they've kind of been getting out of control with, it does bring
like the NWO.
Exactly. It brings to mind NWO where every week someone's getting beat up by, now it seems to be everybody's getting beat up by the Bucks and the Elite. So you got to watch it. You got to bring that in. Otherwise, you're going to go down that route, and no one wants to see that over and over again. Then when you do it sparingly, it's cool. It's like, all right, cool. Interference in the show is chaotic. But a lot of times we just want to see straight up wins and losses between the two competing teams or whatever it might be. All right, after this, we had Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page, kinda. Kenny Omega and Don Callis were introduced by Tony Schiavone. Callis immediately took the mic and told Schiavone to get lost, which is what happens to Schiavone seems like every week nowadays. He's going to give Miami a history lesson. What is he, Drew McIntyre? He was interrupted by "You Got Fired" chants, which I thought was clever. That was a TNA storyline or an Impact storyline that the fans were bringing up here. Callis moved down the list of AEW World Championship challengers that Omega had beaten. All of the fans are in the shadow with the god of pro wrestling, he said. Unfortunately, there's a problem. They've beaten everybody. "We want Hangman" chants then rained out through the crowd. That's when the Dark Order's music played, and Evil Uno led the Dark Order out and said he had a few questions for Omega. Uno wants to know why they're ignoring the crowd and why Omega's afraid of his friend. Cowboy shit chant starts. Kind of like those. Omega asked Uno what the capital of Thailand is, and then he low-blowed him. "It's Bangkok, baby," he said. First of all, Uno looked like a complete idiot falling for that.
He did.
Now, granted, the Dark Order are kind of a comedy group.
Which is stupid, because that's not the direction they were going.
Not when I first started.
They had Brody Lee.
Right. So
yeah, when they first started and when they had Brody Lee. Do you remember the night they showed up?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The impact that they had?
Heel faction, absolutely, yeah.
And they were huge, and it was like, who the hell were those guys? You had this anticipation of a who the fuck is the Dark Order, and then now.
Mm-hmm. Now, to defend it a little bit, not really, but if you ever watch Be the Elite BTE on YouTube, even when Brody was there, they were kind of doing humorous comedy stuff. But yeah, they were more of a dark side, Dark Order. It was more of a real serious team. And ever since, and then I get it, like we've talked about before, how when Brody passed, obviously you're not going to keep them heel. You want them to be baby faces because no one's going to boo them right now, especially with -1 kind of leading the group, so to speak. So I get it, but at some point, in this case especially, I thought it made Uno look like an idiot for falling for the classic Bangkok line. The Good Brothers and Michael Nakazawa came out and attacked the Dark Order. Chaos was ensuing between the Elite, so to speak, and the Dark Order. That's when Adam Hangman Page's music hit, and he ran out, fighting off both Good Brothers. Kenny Omega was alone in the ring, and Page was in perfect position for the buckshot lariat, but he didn't even try to go for it here. They faced off in the center of the ring, and Carl Anderson distraction allowed Omega to escape up the ramp. It's just planting those seeds for the eventual Omega Page match we're going to get.
Yeah.
Here's what I think. When this was going on, I thought this might be what could happen, because obviously Omega's going to do everything probably in his power to avoid Adam Hangman Page, correct? So what I think could happen, the way this brawl broke out, maybe you do the Dark Order and Hangman Page like in a 5-on-5 match with maybe the Good Brothers, Nakazawa, Cutler, and Omega, and if the Dark Order somehow wins, Hangman Page gets his title shot at All Out or whatever it might be. That's the way I would maybe book it. Got to give it a little bit of a stake so you could still play on it for a few weeks, because All Out's still like 2 months away. So I think that would be a way to do it. But we'll see what they do moving forward. But that's definitely where we're going. Darby Allin and Ethan Page had a sit-down interview with Jim Ross. JR was uncomfortable because both of these men have talked about ending the other's career, which why would he be super uncomfortable about that? Because it's kind of like, haven't you seen guys do this for 20 plus years? But
not only that. The reasoning that they gave for the animosity, I don't understand.
Yeah, well, let me see what this answer. But yeah, Page didn't see anything wrong with it. Allen said that Page was angry about how much Allen had accomplished in such a short time. He said Page was complacent as a big fish in a little pond, and that Allen made it to AEW before Page, and that angered him. Page said that he plucked Allen from obscurity. He brought Allen in and up from professional wrestling. Next week in the coffin match, he's going to take Allen out. JR closed by saying he doesn't have a good feeling about the situation. So, yeah, there wasn't a whole lot to it, really.
He goes, I was sleeping in my car. I was broke and no money, but I took the opportunity and made something of myself, right? Meanwhile, you had kids and got married. How the fuck do you blame him for you getting married and having children?
Yeah.
What?
Now, I don't remember. And then, did Allen blame Page for that, or did Page blame Allen for that? I missed part of this.
Page blamed Allen for that.
Okay.
The fact that he was so complacent. How is that his fault?
Yeah, I mean, just because you got married and had kids doesn't mean you have to. I get it takes a lot of your time and it's responsibility and all that stuff. But
okay, yeah, but that is the decision you made.
True. Right. So
Darby chose a different path.
I mean, he's a heel. I guess you could, but yeah, I get your point. I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
It made no sense to me.
Right. It's kind of like Jinder Mahal on Raw blaming Drew McIntyre for taking his Money in the Bank spot when he had nothing to do with it. It's like yeah,
how is that my fault?
Yeah, agreed. So yeah, this the reasoning behind this is a little shoddy, but
the reason behind their animosity.
Yeah,
I would have been fine if it was simply, yes, you made me who I am in a sense of you were where I got my start. Okay, but then my talent and ability took me to a different level and skyrocketed me. It was just my time. That door opened for me and I walked through it.
Well, there was a spot in here where didn't Darby say he got to where it took him 12 years to get, but it only took him a year? Is that what he said? Yeah. So and that part I understand. If you want to use that as the part of the animosity bit, but
that's not
right.
It was the fact that he was complacent in his life choices. but he blames Darby for that complacency.
Mhm.
How?
Yeah, that's not his fault. But I mean, yeah, I guess heels do irrational things, but
They
but that's
do,
still
but
you
it's
still
like
got to make it make sense though.
weak ass argument, fam.
Yeah,
Like,
right. I agree. So regardless of the build, especially, and I can even say this about the QT Cody thing from earlier. The build up and the feud hasn't been the greatest, but I think
been
some of the
weak.
matches have been okay, but could be better. Absolutely.
like your animosity towards Cody is what? For QT Marshall, he was tired of living in the shadow?
Yeah, well, they both had the factory, or something. There was animosity between coaches, or whatever it might be. Yeah, I don't remember the exact reasoning, but
Some of the stories, some of the reasoning
mhm.
is shoddy as shit. But the matches are good. So
Yeah, the matches, which, yeah, it seems like every company, their strength right now is the wrestling portion of it when booked properly. The interferences notwithstanding. But yeah, sometimes the storytelling has been a little
the way how
whack.
we got there is fucking weird.
Yeah, sometimes. And sometimes it makes absolutely no sense. They're trying here, I'll give them that, but it's it needs to be
Just
executed
like,
a little better in this
I
case.
would have been fine if you'd have just stuck to the animosity thing.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
just you're not okay with the fact that for 12 years you busted your ass, and all of a sudden this sideshow act shows up, and a year later he's here, and you're still, you're at home, and you get to see him, and you're just seething with hatred. Cool.
Now, at the same time,
You
though,
can't blame.
if you want to take this into a real life scenario, like how many people would relate to Ethan Page though? Like they've been busting their ass at work for 10, 15, 20 years, and all of a sudden this young snotty kid comes in or something and gets the supervisor or boss position. So maybe they might be trying to play a little bit of that.
You can't sit here and say in the same breath that I have a family and children. And
that's your fault. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah, absolutely. After this, we had a 6-man match. The Pinnacle, Dax Harwood, Cash Wheeler, and Wardlow versus the Inner Circle, Santana Ortiz, and Jake Hager. This is a typical AEW 6-man tag match. Again, because of some nerves and stuff.
Ending.
Yeah, I mean, I understand, like, they kind of had, Tully get involved, distracted the ref, and that's when FTR hit the big rig out of nowhere, which is what they used to call, what was it, Shatter Machine, yeah, they used to call it that, and they hit Jake Hager with it, big man to take that move. But yeah, again, it was just kind of typical, gang warfare almost between these two factions. But
it's what you expect. But
it wasn't bad. Again, like we said before, it just felt like something was missing. I don't know what it was about tonight in general. But yeah, I mean,
it just seemed like you wanted the big men to fight, and they really didn't.
We got a little bit of it, and the crowd popped for it. But as soon as it started, everybody else got involved.
And then it was like you wanted FTR and Pride and Powerful to fucking fight, and they did. But it was like, first of all, Santana, or is it Ortiz? Which one's the bigger one?
I think it's Santana. Ortiz got the hair, but yeah.
Yeah. He was fucking jacked.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, he'd been working out. But I just want to see separate. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to see.
I think we are going to get FTR versus Santana Ortiz at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think
fine with that.
Yeah.
But it was like, this was just like, what? Fucking why? Like,
the 6-man, it felt like, all right, we've got a show to fill.
It was too much.
Yeah. I mean, it felt like, we got to put on a good show for the first show with crowd and going on the road. I get it. But that also feels a little bit like WWE, all right, let's just book it to book it. At least it makes narrative sense because the factions are feuding. So at least I'll give them that. But it just kind of felt, like I said, a typical 6-man match. And it really didn't do a whole lot. Now, I think we are going to get, like I said, I think we are going to get Proud and Powerful. Yeah. Santana and Ortiz versus FTR. And I think if I'm them, I book the winner of that to take on the Bucks, which would probably be Santana and Ortiz because they've mentioned how they've not had. Yeah, they've never had a AEW World Tag Team Championship match. So maybe they're the ones who've taken off the Bucks.
That's my problem. Like, it's just like there are some times where it's like, I guess you expect one thing out of it.
And sometimes that's on the fans for sure. Sometimes that's our expectations.
And you're right. You're 100% right. And sometimes our expectations, but it's like it's done in a way of like we're doing too much here.
This show in particular felt like they were trying to do a little too much first show back.
Yeah.
So I'm willing to give it a break for that reason. But if they continue to do stuff like this because they have had better AEW shows, for sure. Dynamite has been better. And again, it's not like this show was bad. It just felt off. It was weird.
Just felt like they were doing too much with too little. If that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Like too little time, but let's just pack everything in there. And then some of like the finish to some of the matches were just like, do we really need all of this shit?
Well, and that's going to get me to a little bit of concern because we reported last night on our NXT Great American Bash review. Check that out on the channel if you've not seen it yet. About how there was a report going around that WWE is maybe holding off some surprises for when going back to live crowds. If so, great. AEW had one here in a minute that we're going to get into. But there was also a report where AEW was possibly going to stack all of their cards for all their shows moving forward, at least in the immediate future, to get the crowds back and all that stuff, which is great. But it felt like they were doing that a little bit on this show, and it felt like
I'm not a fan.
It didn't feel like it flowed well.
Too much.
Yeah, it was just like make it make sense though. Don't just throw stuff at the wall and hope it works. Yeah,
that's what I'm getting at. It's like make it make sense. Make what I saw towards the end of this, because on this purpose, it was a solid 6-man in the beginning. You know what I mean? Everybody got their shit in. It was great. But then towards the end of it, when Wardlow and Hager started to fight and then it was broken up, it just got real fucking muddy after that. And then it just ended. And I was like, oh, okay.
I mean, I like how totally distracted the ref, but again, we're getting into distractions type stuff.
That was even brought on commentary. I can't remember who said it.
They said totally so resourceful or something to that effect.
Yeah, he's good at it or something like that.
He's good at his job. Which, don't get me wrong, he is, but...
He is, but it's like, but why did you need that, though?
Yeah.
The legal man was in the ring. You still had enough time to do your tag move. You didn't do anything illegal. So why did he have to distract the ref?
I'm not sure, to be totally honest. I mean, we've gone on AEW for having the refs seeing too much stuff, so maybe they're trying to, again, try a little too hard here when it wasn't necessarily needed to do the ref thing this time.
You still have the, 4 count or 6 count?
I thought it was 5. I can't remember, but yeah, something like that.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
To get off the big rig and for...
Get out.
Give me a minute. And to have Wardlow finish the match. You get what I'm saying? Like,
right.
In your 5 seconds. So the ref did not need to be distracted. Again, you didn't do anything illegal.
No, you didn't, exactly. So maybe, again, just maybe another case of a little too much here. After the match, also, we had Conan. He attacked Wardlow. That was, boy, he had some high aspirations on that one.
What was in the sock?
Well, he was swinging a sock. I think the inclination was he had like a bar of soap in it, or I can't remember what they called it, but it was like an old prison thing. I don't know.
Well, he can't use it again because Wardlow's like, no, I don't give a shit how big you are.
Yeah.
The implication is that he had a pool ball or
it might have been a pool ball
in it.
Yeah.
Because I think he said the ball, or I forget what the hell he called it.
Yeah, he called it something particular. I can't remember the name of it either, but
Wardlow no-sold the shit out of that.
Yeah.
Which, I don't give a shit how big you are. If I crack you in the back of the head of you not expecting me to hit you with a fucking pool ball and a sock and I swing it like a bolo, you dropping, fam.
Now, did he hit him in the head or just the back?
No, he hit him like right in the back of the neck, like right underneath.
Yeah, that would still suck. Yeah, the back I could give you no selling, but the back of the head or neck, yeah, I get.
Even at the back, let me hit you in the back. I bet you pop forward and.
Oh yeah, at least a little for sure. No doubt, but he
sold the shit out of it.
Yeah.
I'm like, Wardlow should have
all right,
and then fell over.
Yeah,
but and then you could have had FTR kick out of him. But instead, it was like he hit him. They all do the slow turn.
Yeah, and
then he gets chop blocked
from behind by Tully of all people.
I'm like, what the?
The only again, I kind of hope they don't do this, but
that's happening.
Yeah, I wonder if it's Tully versus Conan at some point. Maybe, obviously, it would be kind of a joke type. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't call it a joke because they're both, veterans of what they do.
Oh.
But yeah, it would be kind of like those old referee matches where like you had to strip them down, or like I don't remember what they were called, but you know what I'm talking about, like the Fink where it was in one. It would remind me of that a little bit, and I don't know if we need to do that.
Who was it? The head referee that came over from WCW.
Nick Patrick.
Yeah, and fucking
Earl Hebner. I think.
Hebner.
Yeah, it'd be something like that. That's what it would remind me of. And maybe that's what they're going to do, but it would be, that's why I say it was a joke, because it'd be like, all right, this is going to be for pure comedy purposes. So that's maybe.
Earl had them happy. He had them happy feet in the ring. He was all over the place.
Absolutely. So I don't know if I want to see this or not, but I'm not saying that's going to happen. Maybe not, but it seems like you could get an angry Conan because now he's been beat up a couple times. Maybe he comes out and makes a challenge to Tully. We'll see what happens going forward, though. After this, we had Carl Anderson in the back. He cut a promo. He said that Jon Moxley had been a big problem for the Good Brothers. He then challenged Moxley to an IWGP United States Championship match for next week, Fyter Fest Night 1. Obviously, we've not seen Moxley in a few weeks. They wrote him off with an injury angle, but obviously he's been off spending time with his newborn child with Renee, his wife. So it looks like Mox is returning next week to AEW Dynamite. So that's cool. Nothing wrong with that.
Prefer a surprise.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in the main event a little bit, how we kind of maybe feel like the main event maybe could have gone if Mox was ready to come back a little early just for a little surprise. But I think it would have made the show a lot better toward the ending for sure. But that was not to be. Then we had Chris Jericho and MJF in the ring for a face-to-face standoff. When this started off, obviously the crowd was singing Jericho's music, which is always great.
Miranda was sitting in the chair, and I remember like the one time she heard his music, like I don't know, this is a couple weeks ago,
right?
And she goes, "Is everybody singing his song?" And I go, "Yeah." And we've listened to it in the car because I have it. So
small crowd at that point, yeah.
So I'm sitting there. I was cooking at dinner. And he comes out, and it's the part where, you know, the music cuts off, but everybody's... So she's sitting in her chair singing the fucking song, and I go,
yes,
you're doing it. And she goes, shut up.
Let me have this moment, all right? Yeah, I don't... That was a great moment. But yeah, to start this off, though, while this was going on, somebody ran into the ring during Jericho's entrance. Yeah, this was... I saw the video on Twitter of the guy being arrested after the fact or whatnot. He looked drunk out of his mind. Either that or they had already handcuffed his feet because he couldn't get to his feet, whatever the reason was. I don't know if he went after Jericho or MJF. I think it was MJF, which makes some sense because, you know, he's such a douchebag of a heel. People would probably want to punch him in the throat. And the camera even caught Jericho trying to punch the guy. So I think...
Maybe...
Yeah, so I don't know exactly how, you know, what all that was about. But
Jericho even said something about it. He goes, I should have let his fat ass beat you up.
Yeah. So it was a nice little ad-lib on his part for sure. MJF...
Listen to me. Keep talking to the camera.
Yeah, I'm going to run over this segment, so we'll be back. MJF dared anyone in the crowd to try what that fan just pulled. He said Jericho's here groveling for one more match, saying it's sad, but it's understandable because everyone wants a piece of the king of AEW. Jericho said he should have let that fat bastard come into the ring and beat MJF's ass. Great ad-lib live by him. Jericho said he'd accept any stipulation MJF put in front of him, including having sex with your mother again. Again, this got a great pop from the crowd. I thought this was pretty cool on Jericho's part. MJF then blows his stack. He said he wouldn't let Jericho rattle him, though, because that's what the people want, and he doesn't care what they want. He used to look up to Jericho following every step of his career, including the Jon Moxley feud. Jericho made Moxley wrestle every person in the inner circle to get a shot at him when they were a heel faction, and MJF's going to take that blueprint and make it better. MJF loved Greek mythology growing up, he said, and his favorite story was the labors of Hercules. Jericho's going to have 5 labors. The first 4 will be opponents of MJF's choosing with unique stipulations, and Jericho will have to win them all back to back to back to back. The 5th match will be MJF himself, and when he beats Jericho a 3rd time, maybe he'll learn MJF's better than him, and he knows it. So Jericho accepted these stipulations because he's the god of battle, the god of thunder, and the god of war at AEW. I wonder if he's going to get copyright struck by Marvel there.
Time out.
Okay.
So he is the god of battle, which is it Artemis?
Maybe they all are Greek gods, but Thor is the god of thunder. So
Thor's the god of thunder.
Yeah.
And then there's Ares is the god of war.
God of war, yes. So,
but the god of battle, I think, is Ares as well.
Maybe, I'm not sure. I'm not up on my Greek mythology.
And we've mixed we've mixed two different mythologies here too. Because if we're going with Greek mythology,
We got
then
Marvel
it's
and DC in here
Zeus.
too.
Then
Yeah.
it's Zeus
Yeah.
and Ares twice.
Yeah.
Because I don't
Maybe.
think there's a
There may be a different one for God of Battle. I'm not positive. But
there
not
may
only
be a different God of battle, but
not only that,
I'm pretty sure it's fucking Ares.
this article makes it sound like, he's going to assign 4 opponents for Jericho to face one at a time. I took that to mean during the promo that it was going to be members of the Pinnacle. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but this article makes it seem like he can choose any 4 people he wants.
Anybody, well, that's what he said. He said anybody who's choosing.
Oh, okay. So maybe I misheard it then. So if that's the case, interesting. Now, not only that, I would like to know the steps. Maybe the step is just.
And I think the step will be the surprise. Like, okay, your first match is the Falls Count Anywhere. Your second match is a I Quit match or a handicap match against 2 of the 4 opponents.
It's going to be something. For sure.
Yeah.
And I get maybe they don't want to just say, here's all the steps, here's all the opponents. You tune in next week to find out.
As they go through the matches.
Yeah, which is smart, really, all things considered. Obviously, Chris Jericho's going to win all these matches by hook or crook, whatever it might be, whether he has help from the Inner Circle or not, and it's going to come down to MJF, of course. He's going to beat MJF and ruin his life, he said. That ain't no mythology. I thought that line was kind of dorky, but the having sex with your mother again line was good. I liked that one because MJF blowing his stack actually absolutely sold the line, so I thought that was cool. Then Jericho signed the agreement. MJF stopped Jericho from leaving. MJF makes a big mistake here, saying a deal is not done until both parties shake hands. He demanded Jericho shake his hand or the deal's off. Jericho shook MJF's hand, and then he wouldn't let go, and he pulled him in for a Judas effect. And MJF, to his credit, sold the hell out of this.
He did.
Yeah.
This is the weakest Judas effect
it was.
I've ever seen. But he went down like a champ. I'll give him that.
He went down straight as a board, and he never blinked. Not once.
Yeah. I'd have loved it if he hit him with a code breaker or something.
Yeah.
But that Judas effect was weak as shit.
Speaking of the code breaker,
he just turned around like,
yeah, he just like, out like a light.
That made me laugh so fucking
Yeah,
hard.
yeah, that was good. Speaking of the code breaker, though, there was a fan chant that started up early on in Jericho's promo. They were chanting Y2J, and Jericho said, Y2J's been dead for years. So I thought that was, again, nice little dig, nice little clever line he threw out there. Kind of like
it's just like the whole I'm from Winnipeg, you idiot.
Yeah, it was a great. Jericho's good at throwing in those jabs, especially to live crowds. But yeah, it also makes, drives home the point that we're not in the E anymore. This is AEW, so good on him for that. I thought this was pretty good, so we'll see where this goes. Britt Baker was with Rebel backstage, or Reba, as Britt always calls her. She's one of these days, Rebel's going to turn on Britt Baker and say, "It's Reba, bitch." One of these days, it's going to happen.
It's always that sidekick who has enough of bullshit.
Yeah, it's just over. Yeah. She said the only positive that came out of last week's match was that it was another win for Britt Baker, but an innocent person, Rebel, got hurt in the match when she blew out her kneecap. She talked about ratings in the match only happened so Vicky Guerrero could bring AEW Andrade himself. Baker told Tony Khan to enjoy his blood money, saying maybe next week AEW could run a show in Saudi Arabia.
Here's
another WWE dig here.
Yeah. Here's my thing. At some point, these WWE shots are getting a little old. I get it.
And they get a pop. That's what it was.
It's
but
just all right.
I understand. I mean,
because at some point you sound like a jilted lover.
Yeah, and especially coming the criticism that I know Bully Ray had on Busted Open, especially when it came to Eddie Kingston's comments about a week or two ago, that he never wrestled for WWE. Neither has Britt Baker. Now she's got a boyfriend who does, but I mean. To me, I get enjoyment out of him to a degree just because I have a very love-hate relationship with WWE right now. But that's just because their product is not the greatest, especially on the main roster. But I agree with the criticisms. Maybe they ought to back off of the WWE stuff for sure. I mean, I get a little bit of a pop on it, and I'm sure there are going to be others who do. This actually got a bit of an ooh. Yeah.
But it's like, all right.
Yeah, I hear you. Enough's enough sometimes. Nyla Rose is never getting her title back, she said. Baker's not just sending Rose to the back of the line. She's sending her back to obscurity. They're going to call Dallas the Big DMD when they have this match in 2 weeks, I believe.
What was that line leading up to that? She goes, in Texas, they call it the Big D.
The Dallas is called the Big D. It's his nickname for the
Yeah, she goes, I don't know what that means. But then she did the whole, and I'm like, We all know what that means.
It was weird too, because when she said it, she kind of looked down like she was sizing up a fella. It was like,
and that's the thing.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, are you making a reference to Nyla Rose being a?
I don't know if it was that or maybe. Now that you mention it, I don't know. Because she said, I think she even said something about her during. Yeah, so maybe so.
She said, and I'm like,
awkward.
Really?
Yeah. So I don't know, but yeah. So that'll be interesting to see in a couple weeks for sure. Obviously, I think Britt Baker's going to retain here, and like she says, Nyla will be back in obscurity most likely. Which she's not my favorite AEW women's wrestler, so part of me doesn't mind it too much. But and not only that, we're getting what was it? I think Yukin Sakazawa or Saka.
Yeah, she was returning.
Yeah, whatever. I think that's her name. I could have screwed that up. I can't remember.
I know you're. I
yeah, so I'm glad to see her back next week. So once we get back on the road, hopefully some of these other women's wrestlers, especially from Japan, were able to come over as well. So been missing that a little bit, I think. After this, we had Andrade El Idolo with Vicky Guerrero. He defeated Matt Sydal. Decent debut, but again, it was just kind of one of those things. I've seen better matches from Andrade. But again, he's going to have
matches for Matt Sydal.
True. It's just
the hell the one he had last week or was it the week before?
Matt Sydal, you mean?
Yeah. When he snubbed.
I think it was last week. Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Or when Andrade
that match
came out.
Was phenomenal.
Yeah. He was. I can't remember who he wrestled.
Essentially a jobber in the sense of like. Wait.
I think it might have been one of the Varsity Blondes, possibly. Maybe I can't remember, but anyway,
I can't remember.
Yeah, either way, they had a good match. But yeah, I mean, this wasn't bad. Again, it just kind of felt like, and maybe part of it is Andrade hasn't had a chance to work with a lot of these guys yet to get a bit of some chemistry. That may be part of it. But and he didn't look bad. He looked good here for the most part. Andrade came back with some running knees in the corner and hit his hammerlock DDT, which he's now calling El Idolo original for the win. He also pulled off the moonsault where Sydal moved out of the way and then he turned it into a backflip for a splash, which is the exact same thing Charlotte Flair's been using on Raw, which is obviously something Andrade has used for a long time. So Charlotte's been paying homage to him. So although Andrade pulls it off way better, I'm not going to lie, for sure. It's a little more fluid for sure. But yeah, I mean, this was okay. It's just to get Andrade a win here to get him going and, starting to build up his win-loss record for sure.
Is what, ranked number 5, like that thing?
4 or 5, something like that. Yeah, I can't remember for sure, but yeah. After this, we had a dueling Christian and Matt Hardy video promo. Christian always got the better of Hardy throughout the years, but Hardy was upset about Christian betraying his trust at Double or Nothing. Christian told Hardy to get on his level or get the hell out of the way. They will have a match at Fyter Fest Night 1 next week. So, okay, but it's kind of like, again, it's 2 WWE guys that have had a feud for 20. And don't get me wrong, they're going to have a decent match just because of the fact that they're both veterans, but it's not really going a whole. I would assume Christian gets the win here to kind of further him in AEW more than Matt. Yeah. But yeah, as Brandon eats a banana, might as well. Next we had the biggest
news.
It's
nothing to do with this show.
No, of course not. Bored. Yeah. Nutrition, man. You got to get the nutrition. Potassium.
I've been sitting here and I've been eyeballing them like.
Yeah, I would just eat a banana. I don't blame you, man. Next, we had the biggest news of the night and the biggest thing on this show. This was awesome. So much better than anything Andrade's done yet when it comes to awesomeness. Arn Anderson was with Tony Schiavone in the ring. Arn said it was great to be in Miami. He was interrupted, which before we get into we should mention the lights went out early in the show during the first match.
Yes.
They mentioned the fact that which they are having a bit of a hurricane tropical storm down in the area right now, that they'd had some weather issues. Do you think that was because of the weather or that was done intentionally because of this?
I think it was done intentionally because of this.
Okay, well, if that's the case, cool. Maybe they'll explain that. Maybe it's kind of like a foreshadowing of his appearances. We'll see. Or if not, it may be now, but we'll see how this goes. But anyway, another blackout happened during this interview with Arn, like the one that happened in the Cody match. So, yeah, again, since it was Cody, yeah, you're probably right. It was intentional. When the lights came back on, though, Aleister Black from WWE, also known as Tommy End, or now in AEW, he's going by Malachi Black, debuts, and he hit the Black Mass, or at least that's what they're calling it for now, his spinning heel kick on Arn Anderson. Cody ran out and stared at him.
In dress shoes.
And, yeah. Okay. And Arn ate this, too.
That he fucking did.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard not to eat a Black Mass. I mean, you're either going to take it or you're not.
Cody got way close So when he had delivered the black mass, he had to bend his leg, and it wasn't like he got the full extension on it.
Oh, right.
And I was like, man, Cody, back up, just like a little bit. Take it.
Yeah, so Cody stared him down and he got hit with the black mass himself. Um,
Dude.
I think it was JR who called him Tommy N. Of course, the crowd was chanting Tommy, because that's what everybody knows him as since he left WWE and he's going to have to change his name. Excalibur announced that he is now Malachi Black because it looked like there was something darker about him, which I noticed this, and I mentioned this to you off air, that he now has this white out contact and a little bit of blackness around his eyes, or at least the one eye.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's paying subtle detail to the fact that the last time we saw him in WWE, he was wearing a black eye patch, kind of playing off that, or just the fact that, as you mentioned, why don't you tell the story about what you heard about his character?
So this was like right when he found out that he got released. He was doing a live stream, and I'll see if I can find it again, and I'll send it to you, and you can watch it tomorrow or whatever.
Yep.
But he's doing his live stream, and he's talking about how he had envisioned this character transforming. And there were subtle things he would do, that depicted the character's mood, whether it was a subtle change in color of his gear for certain things, or when his one, was it right or left? It's whatever leg it was that he did the black mass on. He had changed his gear to like this more scaly kind of material. It looked like demon skin is what he called it. And he would want his character to go through these subtle changes. And so he was talking about the fact that when he was on the open the door, he just wanted, I remember that whole thing where he just wanted somebody to open the door.
Right, somebody come knock on my door. Come on, knock on my door. I'll be waiting for you.
This was leading to the whole thing. And this was another aspect of this character changing and adapting into situations. So the eye patch thing was, and I think now we're just seeing the transformation from Alistair to
Malachi
Black. And Malachi Black. And now, with the eye patch gone, this is what we would have got if he was still in WWE.
Mm-hmm. His idea, not the company's, from what I understand. It was all.
And like I said, he talks about it in there where Triple H was all for this, changing of the character and evolving him into this, this vision that Tommy had. And it just didn't go, well on,
because Triple H has his, pulse on the fan base and the talent. He's willing to listen to ideas, unlike some people. But not naming names, Vince. But yeah, if that's what Malachi Black is going to do in the AEW, I'm excited to see where this goes. Because it's different, it's original, it's new. Not only that, he's going to have outstanding matches for AEW. Can you imagine him and Kenny Omega or Moxley? He's probably
again,
wrestled
like
before,
I said,
but
this is my only concern with this. You're getting a lot of these big names.
True.
And you get a lot of these guys. They have to go somewhere. Mm-hmm. And what I'll say about one segment that happened after this, I'll get to that in a minute when we talk about it. I just don't want it to be one of those things where it starts off hot and then he becomes an afterthought. Mm-hmm. Because you have so many other guys in these positions. You know what I'm saying?
Here's my theory on that. We are getting a third hour of AEW every week in August, which is, it's a little over a month away now, for Rampage on Friday nights. Granted, the time slot has not been the greatest for ratings when it comes to Dynamite at a 2-hour show on Friday nights. So we'll see what the 1-hour show does. But I have, obviously, we'll see how much the roster's so big, since it's going to be a sister show to Dynamite, which will be just as relevant. It won't be like Dark Elevation, where it's just, developmental matches and things like that, building up the win-loss records. I'm sure the third hour will help this large roster get more screen time for certain wrestlers. If Rampage is successful at 1 hour, and it seems to have a better job of getting some of these guys on television, I wouldn't be shocked if Rampage turns into a 2-hour show at some point. Maybe not on Friday because it's a death slot, but let's assume there's also rumors out there that AEW could purchase Impact. What happens if they take the Thursday slot and, kind of either they get rid of Impact or they convert Impact into an AEW show? or an AEW. I don't know what they could do whatever they want with that, but that's my theory. Maybe we could get an expansion here a little bit where they have 2-hour shows each week, much like Raw and SmackDown does. But we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, I think that could be what they're doing with the expanded roster. But nonetheless, this was a great debut, impactful. Shocking, because not everybody realized that he didn't have a 90-day compete clause. Dave Meltzer reported on the Wrestling Observer on his Twitter feed, I think, that he had only a 30-day no compete clause. So, and then maybe that was part of the agreement for getting Zelina Vega back in WWE. That is his real life wife. Possibly, maybe that was one of the things that got Zelina to sign back. I don't know. We will maybe never know that, but interesting developments there for sure. Because a lot of people thought Zelina Vega or Thea Trinidad was not going back to WWE too, and she did, especially after some of the comments she made about unionization and things like that. And she kind of just signed for money. So a lot of people were turning on her at this point. So I get why, but we'll see what Aleister Black or I guess Malachi. Like you said though, you weren't thrilled about the name though.
It was just weird.
Yeah, Malachi is odd. It's kind of like at first I thought it was Mordecai. That was like, well, that's
I did too.
That wrestler didn't have a very good success rate.
And then Malachi, I honestly, because like he doesn't do anything on a whim. There's a reason why he chose the name Aleister. You know who Aleister Crowley is. There's probably a reason why he chose Mordecai.
Malachi.
Right. There probably is.
There's going to be a lot of confusion there for a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. There probably is a dark entity by that name, and and so like I said, I don't think it's something that was just picked out of nowhere.
No, it's got a reason to it for sure.
There's a reason behind it. Like I said, there's a reason behind why he does a lot of things that he does with his character. Right. So like I said, it's one of those things where like you get used to somebody being called something else for so long, and then it's like you change it. It's like,
it's a transition.
So it's just one of those things that was like, it'll grow on me. I'll be fine with it.
It took a while for me to get used to Miro. And it's still a weird name a little bit, but he's selling the gimmick.
I'll get used to it. And
it's like Moxley, all this stuff when it changes. It's going to take some time, but it'll be. I think it could be really good once we see what his character evolves into. That's what really matters and how they use him. So we'll see what they do. We had after this a recap of a tape segment from earlier where Ricky Starks cut a promo on Brian Cage. Taz came out to shut it down, and then Cage came out and beat down Starks after Starks basically insulted Brian Cage's wife. This was oddly put together and difficult to recap because it took place before the live show. But this whole Team Taz is about to implode. Ricky Starks is even talking like basically he don't want anything to do with Taz anymore. So apparently Ricky Starks has been cleared for action, so he'll have a match with Brian Cage next week for the FTW Championship on Fyter Fest Night 1. So interesting card for the first night of that, so I think it's pretty well stacked as well. After this, we had Orange Cassidy and Chris Statlander in a typical mixed tag match, defeating the Blade and the Bunny. Nice little, detail that they played into. Orange Cassidy asked Aubrey Edwards to check the pockets of the Blade before the match because the brass knuckles were in there that were used against him before. So nice little attention to detail there. They had a pretty good match for the most part.
But she still looks dumb because she didn't check the other person who you would honestly think if...
Yeah. Agreed. Now they made it sound like he had one in his other pocket. Which, if that's the case, it's still dumb because why didn't she check both sides of his pants? But I don't know if she actually got it from Bunny or not. If she did, to your point, they should have checked her too.
I think you got it from Bunny. You should have checked her too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's like nice callback, but then Bree still looks stupid because she didn't do her job.
Yeah. I can give you that.
I'm glad it didn't end the way I thought it was going to end because that would have just made me mad because we have the same finish 2 times in a row.
Oh, the knockout? Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I was starting to worry about too. I was like, oh, no, not like this. And then, of course,
like
how did that go? He produced brass knucks and rocked Orange with the right hand, but Statlander made a tag when Blade didn't see it. And so Statlander pushed Bunny into Blade and hit the Big Bang Theory for the win. And Aubrey refused to make the pinfall count when he knocked out Orange.
Because
so
she
saw the tag. Yeah. So it was that part of the referee did a great job, I thought, of calling the match the way it should have been called. But yeah, the knucks part, little weird. But
let's get past this because I got a feeling it's going to be another one. It's going to be a one-on-one between, and the whole thing is going to be the Knucks.
Yeah, which I mean, there are worse things to consider a feud around, I suppose. But yeah, I don't know. It's okay. I mean, it kind of brings in. I mean, because William Regal did it, I don't know how many times. Um,
Yeah,
but
at
yeah,
least he was smart about it.
it feels like, especially with the best friends right now, it kind of feels like they're treading water a bit. Now, I think with Orange anyway, Orange just coming off the world title loss, and of course, Trent having neck fusion surgery. So Chucky, I don't know where he stands right now with that injury, but it does seem like Chris Statlander, though, they were making a point that I think she was a top 5 ranked women's contender. I
Mm-hmm.
think at some point she's challenging Britt Baker for the women's title, maybe even at
Mm-hmm.
All Out. That could be because they've been building up Chris Statlander, who has been undefeated since her return from injury. So that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense to build her up as one of the next contenders. So it'll be interesting to see where
Yep.
that goes. Earlier today, AEW officials awarded Jungle Boy with the trophy for becoming the first roster member to reach 50 wins. Okay, cool.
Cool.
Whatever. I mean,
I mean,
good
like,
for him.
nothing
Good for
against
him.
Hell of an achievement.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, good for him though. I mean, I guess it's
Yeah.
cool, but to me, it's like, all right, it is a scripted show, but it's
Yeah.
like, it's at least, but at the same time, even though it's scripted, the trophy does give a little bit of a relevance to like try to put this over as a real sport.
Yeah.
So I'll give him that. So nothing wrong with that. Shivani was ringside with Dan Lambert. I could for the life of me couldn't tell you who this guy was. I know he is involved with the 2 guests that they had at
I've seen
ringside.
him with the thing is I've seen him before with a bunch of these. He was with Bobby Lashley when Bobby Lashley was in TNA.
Okay, well that's probably where the connection is there from Impact and AEW working together. Okay, I
Yeah.
get it. All right, so that makes
So
some
like I've
sense.
seen him before.
Yeah. So
And I
he
didn't care then.
yeah, he was out there with forgive me if I pronounce this wrong. I'm not the biggest MMA fan. Is it Jorge or Jorge? Jorge Masvidal. Jorge.
Yeah, that
Jorge
dude.
Masvidal. And,
And then-
Amanda Nunez, he moved into the ring and started cutting a promo about being skeptical about AEW. During this promo, I could not help to think about your buddy and our good friend of the show, Tony, who is, I feel like he was channeling his inner Tony here when he's got this promo. So I got a little bit of a kick out of it because Tony's not the biggest fan of AEW, to say the least. He said AEW sucks. He started talking about old school wrestlers and how they were so much better. Again, something our buddy Tony would say. He talked about what Tony Khan did to put over the company, saying AEW has tons of styles and varied levels of experience, from legends to up-and-coming stars. So obviously he's putting over the company while trying to tear them down. Lance Archer then flanked. He was flanked by Jake Roberts, ran out and decked him before hitting the blackout
Why?
on him. Not sure why this had to be on television, other than the fact, unless they're going to
Wait,
start
Lance
this.
gonna start beating up celebrities now? Like,
Well, I think it was just to shut him up to, defend the AEW's honor.
why?
I don't know. Well, part of it I think is because Lance Archer is clearly, I think, at least being booked as a babyface to it because he's kind of been going that route. But yeah, I don't understand why this guy had to get beat up.
With a name like Murder Hawk, no.
Well, believe it or not, the everybody dies thing is getting over with the crowd. But yeah, I get your point. But yeah, there for a while since he showed respect to Sting, he's kind of been booked as a babyface. So it seems like that's a slow turn, I suppose. But yeah, I don't know. To me, I don't understand why they had to beat the guy up. Well, I mean, I get why they did it, but I don't see why he had to be out there other than to.
I have Tony Khan come out and smack him. Like, there's no
That'd be cool.
reason to have Lance do it.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like, why
This
couldn't this
seems
been
like
done pre-show?
This seems like a Cody problem. This
Yeah.
seems like a Sin Dustin out there. You know what I mean? Like, why Lance?
Yeah, I understand. I mean, like, if they'd have done this pre-show before the show aired, like for the live crowd, to get over the fact that Jorge Masvidal and Amanda Nunes was out at ringside, okay, cool, I get it. And that was all it was really for, to bring attention to that.
The Conor McGregor and
and the fight that was going on this weekend with Conor and one of the guys he mentioned, I can't remember. Again, not a big MMA fan personally, but all due respect to all them guys and girls up there, for sure they're great. But yeah, I don't know who this guy was. To me, I was like, all right, it was a thing.
Thought was, are we gonna have him beat up celebrities now? Like, that's what we're doing?
My only other thought would be, what if Jorge Masvidal or Emmanuel Nunez does something with AEW, a la Mike Tyson or something?
No.
I mean, I'm not saying you should, but it's a possibility.
And that was a big thing, because I was like, if they get in this ring and a wrestler comes out here and a wrestler beats one of them up,
oh, yeah, I don't know how that would fly.
that's not good.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll see what they do. I got a feeling this is probably a one and done, just because they were probably in the area or something like that, just to promote the fight. It's stuff WWE does, but we don't like it when WWE does it either. It's like, all right, this doesn't need like the zombie stuff. I mean, this wasn't near as bad as the zombie stuff, but it was still one of those things where they were promoting something that was coming up that really had nothing to do with the show in particular. But yeah, it was a thing, so for sure. Next week on the Fyter Fest Night 1, the card is Coffin Match, Darby Allin versus Ethan Page, FTW Championship, Brian Cage defending against Ricky Starks, Christian Cage versus Matt Hardy, Yuka Sakazaki, that's her name, versus Penelope Ford.
There it is.
It's easier when you can see it and read it. IWGP United States Heavyweight Championship, John Moxley.
Time out. We were way off.
We were way off, by the way. Yeah, boy, we butchered that. Our apologies. John Moxley versus Carl Anderson, and Hangman Page will speak next week in a promo. So solid card for Fyter Fest Night 1, so not too shabby. Some fresh matchups and some feuds that are coming to a head. We had Don Callis joining commentary for the main event, AEW World Tag Team Championship Street Fight. The Young Bucks, Matt Jackson and Nick Jackson, defeated Eddie Kingston and Penta El Zero Miedo to retain their belts. Again, since it was a street fight, I'm not as mad at the interference as normally, but we did discuss earlier how it is a bit much. Maybe calm it down. We had thumbtacks, which was interesting because the Good Brothers, Carl Anderson carried the bag of thumbtacks down to the ring, but Eddie Kingston's the one who laid him out in the ring. So I was like, what?
It was okay. So he brought the thumbtacks when the Penta did the spot where he jumps out of the ring, he drops them or whatever. Eddie finds them and then he just brings them in the ring.
Was it during the Canadian Destroyer on the table?
Thumbtacks to begin with.
Yeah. I guess they had a plan, but apparently Eddie got to him first, which is fine. I got no problem with that, but it was odd to be honest.
I hate the fact that Nick or Mike scoops or Mark. They scoop up a bunch of them and throw them in Eddie's face.
Oh, Nick or Matt, yeah.
Really?
Well, and then they did the same to Penta later, and then the finish involved sticking some tacks in Eddie Kingston's mouth and then super kicking him, which was, I mean, I got no problem with the tack spot. And then, of course, he spit the tacks out, which had to suck, first of all, regardless of the kick. God knows how many he ate for that. But, yeah, that was brutal. And, of course, we got some falling on the tack spots and things like that. A lot of Canadian Destroyers on tables on the outside. It was definitely... Yeah, that was dope. It was good. The match was good for atypical AEW, chaos is what this was.
I wish they wouldn't have done it. Like that's all. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, again, if it was a street fight, I would get onto him more for it. But you're not wrong. As we mentioned, the interference is a little out of hand, especially in Young Bucks matches when we've got Nakazawa, we've got Brandon Cutler, we've got Kazarian running out there, we've got the Good Brothers. Everybody and anybody under the sun. To come back to what we talked about earlier, I thought during this match that maybe Penta and Eddie were maybe going to win the belts because since all these people were getting involved and they actually advertised John Moxley to come back next week, I thought it would have been cool if Moxley came back during this match, laid waste to everybody, and big shocking surprise, and Eddie Kingston and Penta would have won the belts. But clearly they've got other plans for the Young Bucks and the belts later on. I get it. We kind of assumed they were going to win, but I just thought it would have made a nice ending to a Dynamite show coming back to crowds. But
when the dude ran out with the hood up and stuff, that's who I thought it was.
Yeah.
I thought it was Moxley. I was like, oh shit, they about to win. And then it was Kazarian. I'm like, okay, well, there's still a
we've done this for weeks. Yes, Kazarian's out there every week. We
have this moment of like, this is your opportunity to give the crowd something different, right?
Especially first night back.
Yeah, and then we don't. We just rinse and repeat what we did previous, and it's like, come on.
Well, and to be honest, the crowd itself, they were into certain things during the show. However, I've seen hotter crowds at Daly's Place over the last few weeks, especially at Double or Nothing. Yeah. This crowd, again, it's the first crowd back on the road. That's going to always be different because some cities are not as hot as others. That's just the way it is. But this crowd at times looked like they were sitting on their hands. It's like, and granted, that's just wrestling fans in general on their phones or something like that. Now, the front row seemed to be pretty good, but if you looked into the second or third deck or whatever it was, there were some people just kind of sitting there like, and to their credit, though, like we mentioned earlier, this was kind of not their best Dynamite show, so maybe that played a bit into it. But the crowd wasn't helping either. If the crowd got into it a little more, maybe the wrestlers, I don't know. It's just a domino effect when that doesn't go right. But,
See what next week is like. And, like I said, this may just be a one-off first show.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe in a different.
Everybody's got to get
city,
used to it.
Crowd may be a little hotter, but like it just the whole show felt weird.
Yeah.
Like you said before, it felt like the pacing was off, and I 100% agree with you. It was just something about this show that I was just like, I don't know what's wrong, but there is something.
Well, like I said, the camera angles were a little odd all night, which again, they're getting used to new setups. They've got to get back into the flow of this. So that's going to probably, and now WWE's better on the production side of stuff. Granted, that is what they, outside of the thousands of camera cuts for no explicable reason. But otherwise, when it comes to camera angles and things like that, they're usually pretty good about it. So they're going to have the advantage on there getting back to a live show because they're more experienced with it. AEW is going to have to iron out those kinks, and with all these other kinks that we've mentioned as well. So they'll get better, but it was an okay show to start getting back on the road again, I think, all things considered. But we'll see how they do next week for Fyter Fest Night 1. Then we've got Fyter Fest Night 2 the following week, and then we've got Fight for the the Fight for the Fallen the week after. So, but that'll pretty much...
The following.
Yeah, the following. Sounds like a Transformers movie or something like that. but anyway, yeah, so that'll do it pretty much for our AEW Road Rager review for this week. But the real question here is, guys, what did you guys think about AEW this week? Comment down below. Let us know. And don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you get all the notifications about when we put up new content right here on this channel. And until our next video, guys, take care.
Either you subscribe or I'll send my kids to your house.
Ooh.
Yeah, ready to go, man, lock and load. That's right, I swear to God that I can jump and roll. Yeah, I got a shot and I ain't stopping, no. That's how I know that I'm unstoppable.